Hey everybody, how you doing? Glad to have you here. My name is Keith Barker, and we just had a quiz on Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And what I did is I took that recording and then I edited it down. So if you're watching the recording of this, it's a lot quicker. Here's a quick breakdown of how it'll run. I'll introduce a question, and then I'll give you in the corner of the screen a countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and boom! And then the actual answer will appear, and then any explanations I include. The benefit of doing that is that as you're watching this video, when you see me doing that countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pause it, and that'll give you as much time as you need to think about the answer, what it is, why it is, and then you can click on resume and see the answer. Here's our first question. 2 connected ports, both configured as auto, will build a trunk on Cisco gear. All right, that is false. It feels like it ought to work. It feels like it ought to work, but it won't. If two sides, two ends of a trunk, 2 switches, both are set to auto. It's like, think of it like a dance where you have a whole bunch of people on one side of the hall or the dance hall, and a whole bunch of people on the other side of the dance hall, and nobody ever goes out and introduces or says to the other person, "Do you want to dance?" Auto is like waiting for a dance, an invitation to dance. And if both sides are waiting for a dance partner, they're not going to dance, not going to fly. We need to have one side is on or one side is desirable, and that will kick it off. All right, here we go. We're moving on to question number 2. Good luck, everybody. Here's question 2 of 10. It is multiple select. Switch 1 and switch 2 are connected using the port shown, which is going to be gig 2/0/1. Which of the following are true? All right, the answers are the ones that are shown being correct. Let's talk about why this is. Let's click on Show Media, and let's just go through this output. Now, one of the things about the output like this, there's a lot of information here. I get that, but we want to focus on just the important parts that are relative to the question. So this is Show Interface Gig 201 switch port. Great. And it currently shows it as administrative, it being trunk. Now, admin. When it says admin, what that means is how it's configured. Now, if you have something configured like desirable or something, that doesn't mean it's always going to end up in a certain state. So think of administrative like how it's configured. If I did a show run, in fact, somebody asked me the other day, how come when you're troubleshooting, you do a lot of show commands, but you don't do a lot of show runs? And the answer is, I want to see how it's behaving, not how it's configured. And show interface status and stuff like that can show us that. So it's administratively configured to be a trunk. It's also operationally acting as a trunk. Okay, great. So it's a trunk, 201. Here it says the administrative trunking is using 802.1q for the encapsulation. Some older switches, many older switches support ISL and 802.1q, and that's why. It's showing us there. So it's saying administratively it's configured to use .1q, and operationally it's using .1q. See, there's a theme here about how it's configured and how it's operating. Negotiation of trunking is on, right? That's going to be different in the question coming up, so pay attention to that. So VLAN 1 is the default. This is nasty. This is nasty. So it says access mode VLAN 1, trunking native mode VLAN 10. That says the native VLAN is 10, which is the VLAN named HR on this switch. It also says administrative native VLAN tagging is enabled. That means that when these switches communicate, even if they're sending frames on the native VLAN, like a broadcast that came in, it's going to tag it. That's what that means. Administrative native VLAN tagging this is not using the default. All right, so that's fantastic. The other side of the switch is 201 also, and it is set up for dynamic auto. It's operating as a trunk. Okay, great. So we know we have a trunk between these two devices. It says so. It'll negotiate the encapsulation, and it negotiated .1q. That's great because that's what we're using on the other side. Fantastic. And it says here that the trunking native mode VLAN 1 default and native VLAN tagging is enabled. This is, we had office hour yesterday at 10 o'clock, and we also had a really, maybe it was that one or previous session, somebody asked a really great question about maybe it was Mike on Tuesday or Wednesday, I forget. Anyway, he's asking about a scenario like this, where if you had these two switches, so switch 1 and switch, oh, am I writing? Not yet. Okay. Am I writing on top of myself? Not yet. And switch 2, and this is port 2/0/1. And if this guy believes the native VLAN is 10, and this guy believes the native VLAN is 1, and they're both tagging for it, that's interesting. Yeah, this is definitely a misconfiguration. This is a worthy discussion we could have lunch over. So they're both tagging, and they both have different native VLANs. So what is that going to mean? Well, because everything's tagged, it may not be a problem. If switch 1 sends a broadcast, for example, and it's tagged as VLAN 1, switch 1 will know where it belongs in VLAN 1. If switch 1 sends a frame for VLAN 10 and it tags it, switch 2 will know that belongs to VLAN 10 because it's tagged. So the VLAN mismatch in this case may not be as disastrous as it could be, as if we weren't doing tagging. If you don't do native VLAN tagging, then you're going to take two different VLANs, 10 and 1 in this case, and when they're received by the other party is going to assume, because it's not tagged, that it's part of its native VLAN, which is not matching on both sides. So that's that's how I'd read this screen. Now let's see what the heck the answers are that it was looking for. Let me clear that off, and I go back to this. And native VLAN gets an 802.1q tag. Great. That's because the administrative tagging. That's true. There is a native VLAN mismatch. That's true, because one side was 1, one side was 10. And switch 1 initiated negotiation of the trunk. Why is that? Let's go take a look. Negotiation of trunking on. Oh, okay. So this guy is operating as a trunk. Negotiation trunking is on over here. It's dynamic auto. So switch 2 did not initiate the negotiation for this trunk. That's like that guy, the person sitting at the side of the dance floor waiting for somebody to invite him. So switch 1 did the initial invitation, and that was a lot of information for the second question. Now, I put these in a random order. I told Kahoot, this tool I use, to randomize it. So I didn't intend for that to be first, but it was. And those are the three answers, and that is why. Which interface commands on switch 1 on their own would cause a trunk to form between switch 1 and switch 2? All right, these are the two commands that if we implemented either one of them on switch 1, it would form a trunk. So switch port mode trunk would allow it to start negotiating, and switch port dynamic desirable would also have it start. So by default, switch 1 is set to auto. It is question 4 of 10. Glad you're here. Multiple select. Why would a port such as 2/0/2 be missing from this output? All right, fantastic. The port is a trunk, or the command no switch port was on the interface, which makes it a layer 3 interface. And so that's a simple one to confirm real quick. Here's the output of show VLAN brief. Has all the ports associated with VLAN 1 at the moment. If we went into an interface like interface gig 2/0/1, we'll take the first one here and we'll do a switch port trunk encapsulation.1q and switch port mode trunk. When that becomes a trunk, if we do a show VLAN brief again, you'll notice that gigs 201 no longer on that list. The other option would be if it's a layer 3 port. So if we do an interface gig 2/0/2, the next one on the list there, and do a no switch port, now it's a layer 3 port, like a routed interface, physical routed port. And if we do a couple up arrows and do show VLAN brief, now 202 is missing from the list. All right, so those are the two reasons why. A lot of people got that correct. Fantastic work. All right, everybody who's here, so glad you're spending a few minutes with me today. Here is question number 5. Which commands show that a port is operating as a trunk? All right. So we had 26 people think about the show interface gig 201. That's a great command to look at the stats for that interface and, basic details of it. packets that have been sent and received, bytes sent and received, is it up, and so forth. But the other two are the ones that will actually confirm whether or not we have a switch port on our hands, or sorry, a trunk on our hands. So I think we created a trunk a moment ago, and how would we verify that? Show interface trunk, that would do it. And this says that 2.2/0/1 is a trunk. Fantastic. Go interface gig 2/0/1. And you just tag on switch port at the end. So there's the operational mode right there. Trunk. That means, yep, sure enough, it is running as a trunk. All right. Great job. Great job. Here we go. Question number 6 of 10 is this. Multiple select and switch 1 and switch 2 are about to connect using the ports shown. What's going to happen? Good luck, everybody. All right, a trunk's going to come up and switch 1 will do the initial negotiation. And why is that? If we take a look at the output here, this guy is set to desirable, and that's why he is going to start. And by default, this one would be auto, and that's why he's not going to start. So the negotiation of the trunk will start from switch 1 to switch 2, and a trunk will form. All right, and let me get rid of my pen there. All right, fantastic, fantastic. Here we go. We're more than halfway done. Here's question 7, just a few more to go. Here's question 7. Switch 1 and switch 2 are about to be connected using the port shown. Again, what's going to happen? This one's different. It's not the same output. All right, what's going to happen? No trunk will form. Why is that? Let's take a look at the media and determine why wouldn't a trunk form? What's wrong with this scenario? So this guy is, right there. So negotiation of trunking is off. By default, this interface is going to be auto. So there's just, nobody's asking anybody to start. And as a result, the trunk isn't going to form. Okay. This one was a little bit tricky. It was. All right, clicking on next. Here we go. We are on question number 8. Fabulous Gecko is in first place. Here's question number 8. Switch 1 and switch 2 are about to be connected using the port shown. It's still 2/0/1. What's going to happen now? And these configs are also different than the previous questions. Good luck, everybody. This is also a tricky question, and it's meant to be a little bit tricky. I wanted to drive home the details of what's going on here. And so if we click on show media, let me bring this up. This guy is currently operating as a trunk. Negotiation of trunking is on, so that he'll be sending, hey, do you want to become a trunk? He'll be sending those messages via DTP down to switch 2. This guy by default is auto. And as a result, there will be a trunk. And this switch 2 will negotiate the trunk after being invited by switch 1. And they'll be using 802.1Q because that's what the primary switch is starting the party with, if the switches both supported ISL and .1Q. And so switch 2 will negotiate a link. It didn't say he'll start the negotiation of link. He'll just negotiate a trunk link with switch 1 because switch 1 said, let's start. And that's the only correct answer on the board here. All right, mixing it up. We've got just a couple to go. I'm so glad that you are here. Fabulous Gecko is still in first place, followed by Silver Urchin, Fabulous Shark, Fearless Swan, and Wonder New. Okay, here we go. Question before the final one. Which of the following are true? Which of the following are true? Choose all that apply based on this output. They're all true. These are all true. And there's a lot to unpack here. What I would like to do also is remind everybody that if you have questions about anything you're studying in CCNA and you would like to get just like you're studying something, you just want a little clarification, every Saturday, 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time, I hold my office hour on Discord, and it's free. There's a link in this video and all my videos to join us. Also, for that office hour, there's a section under office hour for the channel there called question requests. And as you have a question about your CCNA studies, just go put it in there. And then every Saturday, we start with those and start going through them to answer those. That way you can have those questions queued up. So you don't have to wait until Saturday to post your question there. You can just get your question there, and it'll be waiting for us. And when we come on Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific, we'll go ahead and answer them. All right. And which of the following are true? If these were layer 3 interfaces, then we wouldn't have spanning tree blocking. That's true. Both switches are running LLDP, and the reason that's true is because on the output, this guy right here on the bottom, that is LLDP output, and it takes 2 to tango, so we have to have a sender and a receiver to do LLDP, and we also have to have 2 to tango for CDP, which is what we see on the top, the output from show CDP neighbors. So we have to have, so CDP is running, so is LLDP, and so that makes green true. And if LACP were used, we could avoid spanning tree block states. That's also very true, because we could treat all those layer 2 ports as an ether channel, and then we don't have a block because it sees it as one logical port. And let me show you something that might be, I encourage everybody to lab stuff up. If you're working on if you're practicing, studying, it only takes a few minutes to lab it up. It's in Packet Tracer, it's free. And so if I was labbing up, like, let me just show you what I'm working with here. I use Visual Studio Code, not for programming in Python and stuff. I use it mostly for my configs, and I store it and synchronize it. Anyway, this is the scenario for practicing and playing with CDP and LLDP. So in global config, we use these commands. No CDP run or no LLDP run. That turns it off globally on the box. And then if you wanted to clear the CDP or LLDP table from privilege mode, you can do that. Or if you're in configuration mode, we throw in a little do there. So to tell it, please do this, even though I'm in configuration mode. And then what I did here is I just went into interface FA0. That's my management port on these 3750 switches. And I said, no CDP enable. That disables the feature on the port, not on the whole box. And then for LLDP, it's slightly different. It's no LLDP transmit, no LLDP receive. And then you can also play with the timers if you want. So the default timers for CDP, I think, is 60, and there's different timers for LLDP, but you can tweak those, and you can see what those timers are just by doing a show CDP. So let's apply this. Right click, copy, boom, done. All right. So if we do a show CDP, there's the timers. So by default, it's 60 seconds for the hello, and I just modified it to 10 a few moments ago. And if we do a show LLDP, and this is so, here's the deal. It's so easy to do this. And so if you're going through the blueprint and you're studying OSPF or routing or switching or HSRP or whatever it is, just take a few moments and put in the configs and do a couple simple show commands, and that'll reinforce that behavior for you, the output. And that way you become familiar with it. And you could ask, about OSP. If you get asked a question about what is this output or what is that output or how do you do this, if you do the hands-on practice, it'll reinforce that for you. That's all I'm saying. It's the best of both worlds, because also in a production environment, if you're working at the CLI and you know the commands, you'll be that much more prepared to be able to troubleshoot. So we do a show CDP neighbors, and we do a show LLDP neighbors. Shocking. So there's the output, and the fact that show CDP neighbors worked and also show LLDP neighbors worked verifies that they're both enabled. So do a show CDP, and let's go ahead and do traffic. Fantastic. And show LLDP traffic. Yeah, look at that. All right. So we've had some traffic in. Anyway, I would encourage everybody to practice everything on the blueprint. If it only takes a moment to do in the CLI, do it. And you'll be that much better for it. All right, let me move that out of the way. We got one last question, and here it is. Question 10 of 10. Thanks, everybody, for showing up today. Switch 1 and Switch 2 are about to be connected again. This config is different than before. What's going to happen now? All right, no trunk will form. I am very pleased about that. Let's demonstrate real quick why. And let me see if I can recreate this environment for us. So this morning I just put a few commands together to help reinforce this. So on switch 1, I'm going to do terminal monitor. That's because I'm remotely connected. I want to see log messages at the console, so I did terminal monitor. I'm defaulting interface 201, and then I'm also going to do native VLAN tagging because I think in the question it was, if we look at the output, it was. And then I'm going to do a shutdown and no shutdown, bring it up, and then we'll take a look at it. That should get us right to the point where we were in the question. So copy, paste, fantastic. And I'll also go ahead and do the same thing for, so bring this up for switch 2 with the appropriate command over there. Copy, boom, boom, boom. And there's nothing wrong with doing this either. If you want to practice your commands, once you have the commands, you've done it like a billion times, having some notepad or automation tools to put those commands in is great. So if we take a look at this output now, show interface gig 2/0/1 switch port. And here's the, I'll do a cue to quit. Here's the defaults for it. So it says operational trunking encapsulation native, trunking negotiation is on. But if we did a show interface trunk, we have no trunk. And that's because we are not actually going out there and doing the invitation. Right here, dynamic auto. We're not inviting the other party to dance, and that's why the trunk isn't forming. Just wanted to confirm that. So that's why this answer is absolutely true based on this output right here, with the default on switch 2 being what it was. All right, these are all really easy to practice in Packet Tracer, super free and super available, just labbing it up. I would encourage you, if you're struggling or learning about switching and trunking, go through this scenario and lab them up and get the practice with them. Let's take a look and see who's at the leaders table here. And thank you for joining me on this December version of Inter-Switch Connectivity. Fantastic work. Fantastic work. And let's do this. Let's go ahead and congratulate Fabulous Gecko. Way to go. And here are the toughest questions. Now, overall, we had 38% correct. And here are the toughest 3 questions in the whole quiz based on results. Yeah. So basically, what's going to happen based on a configuration of switch 1 and switch 2. Now, the reason that this type of scenario is important to be aware of, I got to sneeze, is because we want to be, that really gives the chance for a certification exam to verify, do you understand how this works? By giving you a couple scenarios or configurations and saying, what's going to happen as a result? Whether it's DHCP snooping, whether it's dynamic ARP inspection, whether it's OSPF routing, whether it's layer 2 forwarding, whether it's trunking with switches, they're going to ask you about, do you understand how it works? Can you predict what will happen based on a condition? And if you can answer those correctly, you're going to do better on those questions where you have the understanding of the technology. All right, so there's a little room for improvement for everybody right there. And one last thing I'd like to do is get some feedback. If you could, for me, on your game input device, let me know your feedback on this quiz. It helps me build future ones. We've been doing this for like 30 weeks now, I think. You can go back. Somebody asked earlier, what do I do to prepare? I'm about to take my exam. I would suggest taking the whole blueprint, grab the blueprint from Cisco, and in the blueprint, it's just the exam topics. And I would just go through all of them and identify, okay, describe switching concepts. Can I do this? Can I explain that? Or if it says configure and verify inter-switch connectivity, which is what this quiz is about, can I do that? And those areas that you're weak on, just lab them up a little more, practice a little more, and then go at it. Also, as far as the in prep, I have like 28 or 29 or 30 quizzes like this one recorded on my channel on YouTube. So if you haven't already, click on subscribe so you can find me easier. My name's Keith Barker. If we're new to meeting each other, hello. It's good to meet you. And I've got a whole playlist just for these quizzes. That's a great resource that you can turn to if you want to just like brush up and verify that you get a concept or understand an idea. The quizzes are a great place to go. So that's it for this quiz, this recorded version and the edited version. Thanks for joining me. If you want to participate in the live quizzes, we have them every single Sunday Pacific time at 11 a.m. I'd love to have you there. Meanwhile, have a great day, and we'll catch you in the next live event.
I've been waiting all my life for someone like you. I would watch the days go by, wasted and blue. I was out of use. Now